What's up, everybody? A Sparrow with a Gun here from Sleepless Nights with another episode on Elite Dangerous, and I am happy to report that my controller is back up and running again. Thank heavens. So, I don't really fully know what went wrong with it, to be honest, still to this day. I ended up just basically reinstalling the driver through the SCP toolkit, or SCHP, whatever it is. The toolkit part, and it has a little driver installer, uninstaller, thing, and so I basically just said, you know what, just uninstall this and redo it kind of thing, and it ended up working. So it took me a minute to get to that point, because I wasn't sure what the problem was, but it didn't actually take that long to fix, because it basically was just, yeah, reset it and let it go kind of thing. Oh. I just realized I'm still using the controller, but I have that little cursor thing from when I had the mouse. I guess the mouse part is still set to be used. Okay, that's something I need to fix. Yeah, where is it? Mouse controls. Let's, disable that. Off. I will say that, I believe it was Zazelus Arden, I think? Did that turn that off? Please tell me it did. Nope, it did not. Alright, well, we're gonna get going here. Had mentioned a better control scheme for the for using keyboard and mouse, and it's one of those I probably would have taken more time to focus on had I not already gotten the mouse or the controller part to work again, because then it was kind of irrelevant. But it did sound like a better idea. Let's see, is there a role that's set to mouse? I thought I just turned off all the mouse stuff, right? Show mouse widget. That's what I needed. I actually could have left those other things on then. Well, that's funny. So it does look like, this is something I was curious about, that's why I left it that way. It does look like the game doesn't actually pause when you go into the pause menu like that, but it does kill your throttle, which is kind of a weird thing. So we have a planetary scan job here that's valued at 3 million. So I couldn't let that pass up, especially since I put in about 4 in donation missions, which I need to do more of. We are up to 94% on Chief Petty Officer. However, much to my dismay, I did look it up today, and there's Petty Officer before you get to Ensign, which, blech. So we do have another rank to get through, unfortunately. I really thought I was much closer than that, and then I was kind of a buzzkill a little bit when I looked it up, and it was like, there's actually this one, and I'm like, man. Now, that said, I could actually go get the Federal Assault Ship if I wanted, but I have heard things that I liked about the gunship better. So that's the one I'm actually after. In case anyone wasn't already aware of that, if you're just like jumping into the series or something and didn't know that's the ship that I'm after. I'm going for the gunship. I still am a little bit unsure as to whether or not I'm going to keep the Fer-de-Lance if I can or not. I'm not sure if that's even going to be an option, because I haven't really looked at the pricing for the gunship in a minute. So it could be more than what I have. I do think I will probably strip the Fer-de-Lance as far as take some of, if I have the same hardpoint setups and things, or at least ones that can use those points, I'll probably use them, rather than like selling and rebuying and all that kind of stuff. I'll probably just take them off of the Fer-de-Lance and equip them on, but as far as the raw ship, I don't really know offhand how much it actually costs. I think it's like 50. I want to say it's something like 50 million or something like that. The reason I say that is because I know the Fer-de-Lance works for me. It's set up the way I like it, and there's not much more I can really do with it, so I'm kind of okay with it. But I'm concerned in that if I keep it, I won't actually have enough money to outfit the gunship in a way that would actually compensate for changing the ships. Because you have to think of, you're coming off of a fit or a kitted out ship. Like it's set up the way that I want it to be, versus a ship that I may not be able to afford all that I need to afford. And so with that in mind, I don't know that I'll be able to do it without getting rid of the fertile ants, because of that fact. It's that there is the possibility that, like, I won't have enough funds, even taking off the things that I already have on board the fertile ants and stuff. I just don't think I'll be able to, you know, the Class A power distributor and power generators and shields and all that kind of stuff. I already have a lot of those on the ship, which, if they're the same class and rating, is fine, but if there's one that I need to buy, you know, I don't know if I'll be able to do it. Whereas if I just sold the fertile ants, and kept some of the equipment and stuff, it would be fine. Probably, because the fertile ants is valued pretty high. I know some of it is the stuff that I have equipped on it, but the ship by itself is actually valued as a pretty high-end one, so... at least it was when I got it. I don't know if there's a lot more comparable stuff now or not. So I'm leaning towards I will probably end up taking what I can off of the Ferty and then selling whatever's left, is kind of what I'm thinking, because there's a couple of things that are interesting to me about the gunship. I've heard a couple of people mention it's kind of like a precursor to flying something like an Anaconda. It's not a real nimble ship, it's a big tank, basically, which kind of appeals to me, honestly, because I'm not that great of a pilot. I'm okay. I've played this long enough I can say I'm okay, but I've seen people that they either do videos or have encountered them in-game that they could just fly circles around me. It's not even funny. And so it's kind of one of those, like, I have no delusion that I'm some Top Gun pilot. And so there's some things, like, one thing is the fertile ants, you have to play with the power a lot. You have to, like, if you're planning on dogfighting, you have to move everything to engines, but then if you're going to be firing, you have to have weapons. If you're going to be defending, you know. And I do know some of that is basic elite. Like, I learned that when I switched over to the PS4 version for a little bit. And I did end up having an actual good ship. I was in a little Sidewinder. And I couldn't complete the training missions because I kept getting blown up. And then I was online on one of the forums and somebody had mentioned that. It's like, well, make sure if you're taking hits, put everything into systems, and if you're firing, put everything into weapon. I was like, I never even thought to do that. And when I did it on both the PS4 one and this one, night and day. I mean, if you put everything into system while you're getting shot at, your shields can tank a lot more than if you have one in like I do right now. And vice versa. So those actually matter, but like the fertile ants has a specific thing with its maneuverability that I've gotten kind of used to it, but I remember having to get used to it when I first started flying it, coming off of, I think it was coming off of Vulture or a Clipper. I think it was the Clipper I was coming off of, actually. And it was very different in that, or maybe it was the Vulture, because one of the ships I was flying before the fertile ants, I could literally just pull back on the stick and like fly circles around people, like bigger anacondas and stuff. They hardly ever hit me because it was so had such a maneuvering radius that it was like, you know, I could fly all over the place. And when I got in the fertile ants, I was like, I can't get to people. Like they were outrunning me in a loop and stuff. And I had to learn some new flight things to get used to it. So I'm thinking it's kind of one of those, the fertile ants is the last of its class in terms of a fighter. And then when you get into the assaults and the gunships and stuff like that, it's more of the bigger, heavier, heavy-duty kind of ships. And so I've heard that. I've heard it's not really, the gunship's not maneuverable. It's not really like you're going to turn on a dime, but it's basically a space tank that if you lose shields and stuff, you can kind of just fly at things, you know, and just take a beating. And then it's got, you know, heavy-duty firepower and stuff as well. So the other thing that's cool is I've heard and I'm pretty sure this applies to the gunship as well as not just the assault one. But I've heard you can have like NPC fighters that you can launch, which sounds awesome. That whole idea sounds really cool to me. And it's an aspect of Elite I've never gotten to take advantage of or mess with before, so I'm really excited about that kind of thing. I know that there's the multi-crew system, but it requires other players, so I like that the ones that the gunship has are NPC piloted, because then I can still utilize them even if I'm playing on my own, which is typically how I tend to play. That said, there's a couple. I read an update, or well, not really an update, but kind of a press announcement, patch note thing. Not really patch note, but from the, what was it, the recent Frontier Expo that they did. I think I'm, oh, too fast, a little too fast. I'm gonna put everything into shields now, just in case, like, the last few we've done, they get mad when I scan them. Oh, that's interesting! The SRV shields hadn't recharged since the last time I used it. Well, what do you know? I never knew that was a thing. But yeah, so I read something about, there's a lot of stuff in the works for the new patches and things that are coming out that in 2018 that, what was it? First of all, I guess through 2018 there's going to be 2 major content patches that are free, that they're not an expansion, they're just content patches, as well as smaller ones throughout the thing, like the rest of the year. There's going to be other smaller ones. I always do that. I need to probably change that. I'm so used to square being my throttle killing button, not my cargo scoop. So, one of the big things, though, is what sounds like guilds to me, and if any of you that are more up-to-date, I just read the brief on Steam's news page. I didn't actually read anything. So if I'm misinformed or something, feel free to correct me. But I read something about, it sounded really like introducing like guilds, like in most MMOs. It's called squadrons, which was like you can make a squadron and people can join up with your squadron and stuff. So it sounded different than a wing where it's like a team or a group in-game. It sounds more like a guild that is like persistent. It's not just for that instance of the playtime, whatever. So, because it's one of those, like, wings, you know, if you exit out of them and close the game and stuff, I don't think you're still in that wing. It's like a group in most... For any of you that have played most MMOs but aren't familiar with Elite, that's what it sounds like to me. Is, like, wings are like groups, but squadrons are going to be like guilds, is the way I interpreted it. But one of the coolest things that got brought up in that note thing, wherever, that news release, was the idea that a squadron could have a carrier, that you could get a carrier, and it would operate as a mobile base for your squadron. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Now, I will admit, that piqued my interest, as far as, like, I instantly thought of starting, like, a Sleepless Night squadron kind of thing, and having a carrier and stuff. Now, full disclosure, though, if I did that, I would have to have a couple of people that were willing to kind of help run it, because the day-to-day, I probably wouldn't be able to do it. I just know me, and I've never really done that kind of stuff in MMOs before. I've joined guilds, but kind of was the lone wolf in the guild, like you do it for the guild advantage kind of thing, whatever that may be, but I'm not really one that's like, okay, everybody get on it, like, you know, 9 o'clock, we're gonna do a raid. That's never been me. I'm like the, go, okay, have fun, let me know how it goes. You know, kind of thing. Like, I'm the weird guy that plays MMOs for single-player stuff. For example, some of you have probably heard me bring this up before, some of you may not, but SWTOR, the Old Republic. A lot of people were frustrated with it because it was such a good storyline, like the cutscenes and the decision making and things. It felt like a BioWare RPG, but it didn't feel much like an MMO to most people. There wasn't when it first came out. I know they've done a lot of balancing with that kind of stuff, and it's a lot better now. They still have room for improvement, but most games do. But a lot of the biggest complaints with the Old Republic was not the story, it wasn't the RPG aspects, it wasn't the character stuff, it wasn't it was the MMO side. It was like the raiding and the endgame content, all that kind of stuff. All of the stuff I did not care about. So it was really funny when that was everybody's biggest complaint, was it felt like a single player game, and I'm like, I wanted KOTOR 2 or KOTOR 3. So I'm good with that. It's like, I'm fine. And kind of the same thing with the new Knights of the Fallen Empire and all those expansions, was that the game itself had more endgame flashpoints, operation, stuff like that, but the actual story-driven felt more linear and stuff. Now, the linearity bothered me a little bit in Knights of the Fallen stuff, but the overall idea of making it more of a Knights, like cutscenes and more story-driven, I was like, I am all about this. Like, this is awesome. We need more of that, So yeah, whenever the game is too single-player-y for an MMO, probably shouldn't expect that to be a negative from me. So, I say all that to say that the squadron idea sounded cool, but I would be a terrible guild manager, because I've never done it before. I don't have time to do it, if I'm being honest. So that would be one of those, I would probably start one, but I would not say that it would go well unless I had a couple of people that were just like, I'm a diehard Elite fan, I like your stuff, so sure, I'll basically run it for you and you'll be the figurehead, It's like, kind of one of those, follow the guidelines, but it's kind of like, not really doing it myself kind of thing. It's like, I'll lay down the handbook, the manual. But the whole idea of like the carrier thing and stuff, where people could go back to their squadron's carrier to resupply and stuff, that whole idea is awesome to me. That sounds really, really cool. I'm really looking forward to that. They also mentioned they're redoing their planetary algorithms and stuff to try and add more versatility and terrain diversity and stuff like that, which sounds neat. They're going to be doing some graphical stuff that'll help improve the look of it and things like that. All that sounds really cool too. There's some things I'm sure other people would be more excited about than me, again, coming from the aspects of the game I tend to play, which is not the online side of it. So when it comes to balancing power play and things like those types of things, little things like that I'm not normally involved in, I'm like, meh, that's cool. I hope that's cool. Unless somebody will have to let me know if that's cool. That kind of thing. I am interested, though. They did mention overhauling, or at least improving on the mining side of things, which I have always felt was a sore spot. I've never really felt that mining was anything better than tedious at best kind of thing. So they've talked about implementing some new things there, and I don't know what. I didn't either read it or I didn't understand it, one of the two. But one way or another, it sounds like they're doing some really cool things in the upcoming 2018 patches and things like that. I'm still waiting for three things. There are three things that was... Now, a full disclosure, in their defense, they did not say when that would happen. So, I don't think it's come to one of those where it's like, they're not delivering or something. I don't think it's gone that far yet. I do think it's definitely taken a lot longer than people expected it to, but the three things I've always been waiting for ever since Elite was like early access, beta, announce stuff, was not landing on planets and just landing, but like planets, like inhabited, hunting, things like that. Almost like a Empyrean No Man's Sky type thing, where there's actual wildlife and things on the planets and you're not just landing on moons and such. That's always been something I'm waiting for, and the ability to walk around your ship inside the interior of the ship has always been something that I wanted. I'm a big spaceship person. I like spaceships. Not quite as bad as the Lego Movie guy. The spaceship. It's not quite as bad as I'm not quite as bad as that, but I do like spaceships, and so I always wanted to do that, especially with the level of detail that Elite does with their ships and stuff like that. Like, you can just look around the interiors, and it's not like, oh, when you look behind you, the textures look all... I mean, they do a good job with making things look realistic and stuff. So I've always wanted to be able to get up out of the chair and walk around, especially since they're a big, that's... Elite has single-handedly been one of the only games that I've ever been intrigued by the idea of VR with. So if they added stuff like that where you could walk around, I don't know how it would work, but, like the walking around part, I'm not really sure how that would work other than you're still using a controller. But the whole thing for that would be cool to me. The walking around, the landing on a real planet, and being able to, like, hunt and stuff, that and boarding. They mentioned that very, very briefly at one point, was like boarding other people's ships and having human combat. You know, like, not intership, but, you know, it's like you actually can walk around your ships, and there's interiors, so then when you board another person's and have a battle, you know, that kind of thing. So with that in mind, I was like, okay, boarding, hunting, and walking around your ship, that's what I want to see. Dagnabbit. I don't want that. I wonder if I just leave and come back. Somebody had actually mentioned if you exit out of the game and restart, that it resets the missions. We're going to try that real quick, because I have actually reached my rank at this point, so I'd like to go ahead and rank up if I can. So let's see if that works. Okay, so let me just say, it works a little differently than I expected, but it works. So the first thing not to do, well, actually, let me go over this. We did get a Federal Navy courier job, finally. I had to go through probably 4 or 5 reload, maybe, if not more, which had its benefits, because along the way, each one of those resets had at least 2 or 3 donation missions. Some had a lot, and if you can tell by my credit count, right there, I've been donating. Like, the feds should really like me, kind of thing. So I am going to be curious as to how much rep on my next petty officer rank I've actually already done, and now I know how to do it. Like, no, I'm gonna log in and see if they have it, and if not, log out. Nay, I know how to do it now. So, first of all, if you do... We're going to Waireo, by the way, in case anyone was curious. If you do the... like, log all the way out, like, close the game out and reboot it, and you can still go back into the same mode like solo, and it works fine. It's a little slower, though. The way that I remembered to do it after I tried that was I remembered what was actually said in the comment, and it was a few episodes back. It wasn't recent, I don't think. But what it was log out to the main menu, and if you're in solo, then switch over to open play, and then log in, check the station missions, blah 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 blah. And when you're done, log back out to the main menu, then go into solo. And something about switching between open and solo, you're getting like 2 sets of things, so it resets every time. So that worked. That I can vouch for. That is a valid system, at least right now. I mean, if they patch it or something later, it won't work. But for now, it works really well. As far as getting like donation missions and all that kind of stuff, what I was really doing it for was to reset until I got a courier or a Navy job I could actually do to rank up. The transport 100 items or something, I'm like, that's not gonna work. You know, I don't even think I have a cargo hold anymore. But it had the added side effect of while I kept looking for a Navy job, I kept getting tons of these donation missions. As you can tell, I probably put, what, about... What am I at now? I'm at 42, so I put somewhere around 11 million into donations now. Was that overkill? I don't know. I don't think so, because if you kind of add it all up as far as, like, how many times I've done donation missions and things like that, I don't think it would be an issue. But I don't really know, to be perfectly honest. I could have gone overboard. But honestly, though, it doesn't seem too bad. Like, in terms of the mission balancing the way they are now, you're getting 1.5 to 3, typically. Or at least 1 to 3 million for doing planetary scan jobs and things like that. So it's like, it doesn't seem like 11 is too drastic kind of thing. It is a lot, but it's not like, you know, oh, I won't be able to, you know, like, it's not too dire. So I did stop, though, at one point. I was like, I'm just going to wait for a proper Navy mission because I don't want to put so much into it. Kind of one of those, I could always pull that trick again, but if I don't need to, then I just wasted money kind of thing. So I was like, yeah, I put in a lot, so I should probably just stop. But it is one of those, each rank requires more rep to move to the next one. So I'd be surprised if I was... Actually, I'd be surprised if I was at 50 or higher, because I did put in... Hold... Did anyone else see... Yep, okay, there is another one. Yeah, I totally just flew through that star. Scared the crap out of me. Wait, what? Shipping lane? What the heck? Where am I? Compromise nav beacon? What? Did I just... Where am I? Did I just, like, run into some weird thing? Is this a thing? I guess it's a thing. I'm not in Wyreo, I'm in shipping lane. Did anybody else know that's a place? Because I didn't know that's a place. Oh my, that's 42,000? Yeah, I'm not going to put you guys through that. I'll be back in a second. Phew. Okay, so we finally made it. Where we made it to, I'm not really sure, but we made it. So, yay. So yeah, let's go ahead and turn in our courier mission. Okay. Wait. Is this where we're going? What is this? Take down Pirate Lord. That's a different emblem. Alrighty. Regular mission. Okay. So, liberate 6 hostage. 6 hostages, maybe? Those are some emblems. I'm not really sure what those are. I don't think I've done missions from those types before. Nothing here. Boom data delivery. But they're all around here. Ooh, Spec Ops contract. That sounds fun. Alright. So it doesn't look like we really have... Massacre! The Brotherhood part. Ah, well, at least they know what they're talking about. Alright. So, it doesn't really look like we have any missions here of note. That one we could do, but I don't really see why I would want to do that. So, let's double check here. What is this? You've been issued a permit to the PLX 695 system. I don't even know what that is. Good job, Commander. The Federal Navy has promoted you to the rank of Warrant Officer. Oh, so it's not Petty Officer, it was Chief Petty Officer, then Warrant Officer. I messed that up. My bad. Sorry. Okay, so what are we actually at rep-wise for this? 51! Oh man, I did some work. Alright, so from this point then, I guess our best bet, honestly, is to head back to, Musing. Assuming I can find it. Okay, there it is. I bookmarked it. Yay. And I still haven't really set up the controls for my controller for the galaxy map, apparently. So we'll go ahead and... What is this? Why do I have another line here? Is that like your previously taken route or something? Maybe? I know they did some changes to the route plotting. You can tell where I went. So, yeah, I guess we're gonna head back to Neosing then. Oh, no, wait, crap. Fricker. Probably should refuel. Well, let's clear the dock, at least. Let's check the galaxy map, because I think I have it set up to show me, like, it'll go dotted line if I'm gonna run out of fuel. So we should be okay. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we'll be fine. Yeah. Yeah, well... we'll be fine. What? We'll be fine. So, yeah, I did remember a couple of other things I wanted to go over that I'm actually really surprised that I'm at 50%. I did a lot of donation things, but using that method, I'm going to be ready to do a rank up mission. If I'm telling you what, I may actually end up ranking up. I think this episode's going a little too long, and I don't have enough time to sit down and actually do the rest of it. But I'm definitely thinking the next episode will be buying the gunship, as long as finances permit. Which they may or they may not. I don't really know. Where's our target, actually? Oh, there it is. But yeah, because with that whole log in, log back out thing, switch server trick, coupled with the whole war going on where they're asking for a ton of donations, I think we'll have it. We'll definitely have it before the next episode, because that didn't take actually a really long time to do, to just sit there and ping back and forth. Cost me a lot, obviously. But it's kind of one of those, other than the fact that you would normally be doing other missions to compensate you, it kind of comes out in the wash to me. That's the way I'm looking at it anyways, is that it kind of ends up paying for itself at some point, because you're either going to be doing a few donations and then running a couple missions to make that back, or you're going to get them all out of the way, you're going to lose some, and then you're going to go do other missions and make that back. Does that make sense? You know, so I'm not too worried about it. Though again, I don't remember the cost of the ship. I may be shooting myself in the foot a little bit. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll hold off on doing any more of that until I get some feedback on that. I think we'll be okay. Let's see, if that put us at 51, and I've spent roughly around 11. So it'll probably take another like 10 to 15 at least, because I have to think about also how long I did a couple of those donation things before I was at 100%, and then when I hit 100, I did a couple more before I actually started paying attention to you know, the log back in tricks. So it's probably around 15 million is probably the next, I would say, doing it just off donation missions like that is probably what it's going to run me, I would guess. So you'll have to let me know what you guys think about that. Is that riding the line too much? Should I be doing missions in between there to help kind of compensate or not? But a couple of things I did remember about the upcoming patches. One, it's called Beyond, whereas the current set of patches was called the Return, which had to do with the Thargoid return and all that. This new set that they're talking about for 2018 is subtitled Beyond. So that's pretty cool. But the other neat thing that they mentioned, where did Gorbatko go? There it is. The other thing that they mentioned that I thought sounded really cool was an audio Galnet. in that you could have the Galnet read to you while you were flying. And I was like, that may actually encourage me to listen to it a lot more. Because I don't take the time to actually read through all the news article things that tell you. And a lot of people have told me that's where most of the narrative of the game comes into play, is through the Galnet. So having the ability to, while you're flying around, listen to it is kind of cool. I don't know how much I'll be doing that with, in terms of, like, while I'm recording an episode, because I'm usually the one talking, and if I'm listening so much and we're not conversing, I'd probably get a lot more copyright stuff to deal with, which isn't a big deal, because you're still doing, like, I actually learned that you can dispute those, for all of you that may be uploading YouTube videos or something. I used to think that when it was, like, something was claimed, it was just kind of done, but oddly enough, I actually reached out to Generic B, because I noticed he had mentioned stuff like, I'm trying not to talk so much during the cutscenes and things when I was watching some of his stuff, and I was like, how does he do that? Because whenever I don't do that, it gets flagged and stuff, and so I was surprised he actually responded, because I know he's a busy guy and has a lot of people and a lot of viewers. I figured it would just get lost in the inbox kind of thing, but he actually did reply to me, and so one of the things he had told me was that's kind of a wives' tale type of thing, that talking more will keep it from being flagged, and it doesn't always work. And I was like, yeah, I noticed that sometimes it still got flagged. And one of the things he mentioned was you can basically just tell him, you're disputing the claim because it's under fair use, like you're not claiming ownership of any of the copyrighted material. And I was like, oh. And so I've done that ever since, and most of the time it ends up working out. I've had probably 2 videos that it was like, no, we're still claiming it. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But for the most part, once I dispute something, it would get reviewed and it would get released or whatever. So I'm not too worried about that, but it probably would get flagged more, I imagine, if you're not talking all that much and you're just doing videos where in the background the Galnet's running. So I don't know how that would work for recording episodes, but just for flying around, it is a cool way to get the narrative, though, for people that are like, like a minute ago where I had this super long flight to do kind of thing. It gives you something to listen to. You're like, oh, okay, so that was a really interesting idea that I really liked, that they mentioned in their upcoming patch things. So, that's kind of neat. I will say, though, I don't have too much time left on my episode clock that I usually keep running. But Space Engineers is usually my big thing, and while Elite's views have kind of tapered off since I've been doing so many mission runs and haven't been doing anything too crazy interesting, I do know that the Elite fandom behind that is probably the second most oldest and popular. I say oldest as in been here on my channel the longest, and popular of my views, or of my series kind of thing. So I kind of wanted to bring this up a little bit. I don't know when, sometime soon. Probably, if not before, probably the beginning of next year. I'm going to be taking a really long, hard look at the structure of my channel, and I'm going to be doing some heavy restructuring. I've mentioned this in my Space Engineers videos. I mentioned it recently in my last Medieval Engineer episode that went up yesterday. But for those of you that only watch Elite, you may not have been privy to this. And I have mentioned before, when I get more details and I have a more solid plan, I'll probably do a separate video that's just about the channel, just a channel update video, and get people's feedback more directly from that. But just as kind of a heads up, I've been kind of seeding this idea and throwing it out there. When I first started my channel, I was kind of wanting to build either an advertisement platform so that people knew about the brand of Sleepless Nights and stuff, when eventually I ended up doing something else, like a book or a game or something like that. Or I was hoping, on the off chance something hit big and went viral, then you end up kind of becoming a YouTuber and you do these other projects on the side. That was kind of the envision when I first started doing this. It was a hobby that I was hoping would grow into one of those things. And I would like to think that it's done a little bit of both, but I think ultimately it has turned into more of a platform for the brand. to me. In terms of, I'm really excited about the idea of having over 9,500 subscribers around the time I'm putting the finishing touches and kind of rounding out towards the end of getting ready to release a book. Because one of the things I learned, I've mentioned this before, that I've taken courses and stuff on how to, best practices for like self-publishing. Because I've never done it before. It's just something that really, book writing was not necessarily the way I wanted to go with sharing our stories and stuff that we've developed, but it was the one with the least amount of overhead, in all honesty. It was like either write a book or make a video game or do a Marvel budget CGI movie. And I'm like, yeah, that last one's probably not going to happen anytime soon. And even the game thing, when we do games, we are going to be doing games at some point, but when we do games, it's probably going to be sticking to like a 2D style, for two different reasons, but the main being it's the easiest to work with, in that, the second being, I think there's a market for it. I think stuff like Hollow Knight and Hollow Knight's a big one that comes to mind of being a truly good modern example of what the platform of 2D can still do, kind of thing. And stuff like Dead Cells and some other stuff that has garnered a lot of critical acclaim, and they're 2D. You know, they don't have to be some AAA 3D photorealistic budget. Anyway, so the point is, when I first started it, I wasn't working on a lot of those projects. It was just kind of one of those, either it's going to become a thing that I do primarily, or it'll eventually end up serving as a platform for me to talk about this kind of stuff and get it out there and get it noticed. And that was one of the things that I learned in some of my publishing classes, was to... a big thing is getting it known. It's not, even if you had the best book in the world, if nobody knew about it, then nobody supports it. Even if they wanted to, they wouldn't know about it. So that's a big thing, is already having kind of a platform. They talked about if you're a business person or a marketer and you have an emailing list, you know, things like that. And I was like, well, I've got subscribers, so this is cool. So it has kind of repurposed, but the problem that I'm running into is that because I'm starting to focus more on those projects, because the whole hit it big and do YouTube full time didn't really end up happening, I refocused towards something that is more profitable and more, like, I need to find something that's my thing that I can kind of build a career on. And I'd like to be doing our own stuff. I'd like to be making books and making games and things, and kind of starting our own company that does stuff. And I say our because usually most all of my projects involve Caden Red Pearl. He's in real life, he's like my best friend. So, yeah. So we've co-created a lot of the stories that we've come up with, whether they be games or books or whatever. So we've always wanted to do that. That's like the dream for us, kind of thing, is be game developers or, you know, movie makers or writers or whatever, something to where you can share these stories and people can enjoy them and you can make a living doing that. That's kind of the dream. And so, you know, I'm kind of at this point realizing, I've realized it for a while now, but it's kind of like becoming very obvious that the YouTube side of things as a focus is not really going to work for much longer. I'm shifting gears and trying to focus more on my project stuff, and some of that does include things like Dog Squad, which is still kind of YouTube related, but it's not daily episodic video Let's Plays. It's more original content and like carefully polished, edited stuff than like just playing a game. And so because I've wanted to focus more on that, the daily videos and things has started to become a little bit more and more and more and more and more of a, I don't want to say a hindrance, but it kind of is, if I'm being honest. I know that's what all of you guys are pretty much here for, that's where the enjoyment comes from, and I can only hope that that enjoyment shifts over to some of these projects that we're working on as they start actually becoming public released and things like that, that then it's like that becomes more of the drive. And so because of that, I don't want to, like, I'm not discontinuing my channel or anything like that by any stretch. I've taken the time to build it up and build an audience. I would not just throw all that away. But I am going to try and be refocusing and reshifting some things around in order to spend more of my time and energy on some of these bigger projects and less on daily video things that take up a large chunk of time to produce, but aren't really yielding a whole lot of return in terms of something foundational or monetary. That, like, for viewership, yes, I'm glad everybody is still really enjoying it. I'm happy when people give comments of like, hey, this was really cool. That's great. I'm glad everybody enjoys it. That's partially why I do it. That's most of why I do it, in honesty, but at this point there is a large chunk of it as well that's also been to kind of keep the identity going. That I didn't want to do one of those where I'm taking time off to go work on my book, and then 3 months later you post a video and they're like, who's this guy again? Oh yeah, that's that one I forgot about, you know. So I've tried to maintain a steady flow of content, but I'm thinking at this point I have to start kind of leaning one way or another. So like I said before, I'll probably be doing a separate video on what all that means in terms of what episodes are going to be staying and what's going and blah, 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 because I don't know yet. It's just an idea I wanted to make you guys aware of and that I'm working on in my head. And I may even do it. I thought about it this afternoon. I may end up, if I can find a schedule that would be sustainable for me, I may end up even doing something like the YouTube side turns into more polished content, and the Let's Play type things, whatever few stay. I'd be cutting a lot of them out if I did it this way, just because I need to make more time. But if I kept a few of them, which I'm going to probably do, then I thought about converting them into streams, where it's like you stream those Let's Play style things, and it's a bit more off the cuff and just kind of go, play as you go, and it's there wouldn't be all these edited transitions and things. It would just kind of be one long running thing. And I've thought about messing around with that, but again, there's a big time investment with streaming and stuff if you're doing it like the right way kind of thing and not just casually. So I don't want to say that to where people hold me to that. That's not a set in stone thing, but it's one of the ideas I've been playing around with. So I'm definitely thinking that if not before, because I may end up doing some of it beforehand, I haven't decided. A lot of it comes down to if I can actually tack down what I want to do. I will say the Inspiration series is staying no matter what. And more than likely I would maintain a Space Engineers and probably an Elite series. I don't know for sure, but more than likely, like, that's a good 80 to 90% probable. But on that note, we're going to wrap things up here. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that there are going to be some changes coming down the pipeline, and I will probably talk more about them in the future, but I kind of just wanted to set the record going in that direction so that it's not some big shock when there's a lot of changes that move through. But it's definitely something that, when it comes right down to it, if I'm being 100% honest, I'm one person, and there's only so much I can do, and right now my focus is beginning to shift away from some of the stuff I've been doing so that I can get it done and get it out to people faster instead of sitting on it for as long as I do because I'm too busy doing other things and I can't get around to getting to it. One thing I could cite, Dog Squad. It's been over a year since Yeta Squad came out. We've had the scripts done, we've had most of the audio done, but it's kind of hit a stalemate where I haven't had the time to really work on it. And it's something that's bothering me at this point. I want it done. I want it out there. It's way better than the first season. It's way better than the Yeta Squad season. I'm excited about it, but no one else can be excited about it, kind of thing, because it's stuck in production type of thing. And it's all just time management and how much time one person has to work on things. So, that's the kind of stuff that I'm sitting on, and I'd like to fix it. And that's part of what some of these changes are going to be involved with is fixing that so that I can focus more on those types of things. But so on that note, we're going to wrap things up here. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.